Hey guys, this is Island Community Church here, and this is the before of this older gymnasium space that we are hopefully going to be transforming into a worship center here in the near future. Here we are 14 months later. We are now in the completed, renovated worship center that they have here at Island Community Church. And this was the space that used to be that gymnasium you saw a few moments ago. In this video, I'm going to take you on the tour of the brand new AVL system that we installed here. We'll be diving into the details of the acoustic treatment in this space, the premium point source PA system, all of the audio and mixing gear. We have it racked nice and clean in the equipment racks backstage. I really love the tech booth in this space, and especially the aesthetic and the final touches they put on that. We've got a Pro Church lights, stage lighting system, and house lights. And finally, we have the large altitude LED screen that you can see right behind me. All of this coming up. One of my favorite aspects of this system is the tech booth. Check it out. So you've got the slanted top wall of the tech booth. Nobody's gonna put any drinks on it and obstruct your view. Those drinks will just fall right off onto the brand new carpet. And then we've got some fabric here. You'll actually see this is the same linen color fabric. This is from Prime Acoustic. And what we do when we spec out a tech booth design to the carpenters, we recommend having a hollow wall to your tech booth so it's not really obstructing any of the sound that gets to the front of house mix engineer. And then you'll see there's just some simple stripping that goes around it. We have the fabric both on the outside and the inside. It matches the wall panels that you see behind me there. So really nice touch. I like the paint scheme in here. Come on in the tech booth and let's go to the place that matters the most, okay? Underneath the countertop. As you can see here, we've got our clean integration, and you guys actually saw this prior to the finishes going in. You saw the conduit runs that we had and the studs and what this all looked like. So this is the final result, and because we use tools like KVMs for computers, really cuts down on the amount of equipment we have to have in the tech booth. All the equipment for the system is housed securely in the green room, which is also a rack room backstage. So we do have a Unify switch here, so these definitely come in handy. Lots of things in your AV system are going to be running on the network, so it's good to have a connection back here. Let's look at the workstations. Starting over here, we have our video world. With this church, they are running some PTZ optics cameras. They've got the controller right here, and this is connected to a Mac Mini over KVM back in the rack. This is running ATEM control software, so this is how they are cutting video for their live stream as well as for the content that gets sent to the LED screen. The cameras they're running are the PTZ Optics 4K moves. These cameras have come a long way for being a value camera. They really get great results when you combine them with quality lighting. So right here on the multi-view, you can see we've got 3 camera angles. We've got our main content going to the screen. Of course, we'd have lower thirds lyrics that would show up here as well. We also have additional video input from the tech booth back here. If someone just wants to plug a laptop back in and get that into the switcher, it's very easy to set up, especially for other events that happen in the church other than Sunday morning. Another thing we configured for our client here is control with the Stream Deck. So you can move the camera around with the joystick controller, but sometimes it's quicker to just recall a preset by clicking the buttons here. So you can see as I click the different Stream Deck presets, it's going to remember the positioning. It can also remember things like exposure. So I can go ahead and click on the green buttons to preview an angle, and when I'm ready to cut or fade, I just click the button. It's going to fade that shot to program view for the audience to see. Another cool trick we implemented here is actually sending a video feed to the screen for iMag. So if I click this button that says switcher to wall, that's going to then actually pull the video camera feed from one of the PTZ cameras and put it on that screen. It can be great for events you're trying to zoom in on something happening on the front of the stage, maybe like a baptism or something like that. Of course, they baptize people in the ocean that's like 100 yards away, but you can imagine that can come in handy even though they don't normally run iMag in this space.
Now that button that Jay just mentioned, what's interesting about that is because this is a more than double wide LED wall, right? It's a 2.2 or 2.3 to 1, I think is what it is. And it's almost a 4K full screen with the pixel density on this LED wall. So they're running a 1080p switcher here. So if I ran the video wall feed directly off their switcher, it looks a little bit mapped. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like this wall can look, because this wall looks fantastic like this. So the way that we're actually doing this is a little different than our normal setup here at Churchfront. What we did is we're actually running the video wall out of a native output display out of the computer, because what we can do is set the EDID to exactly the number of pixels on that screen, and that is what this computer is sending to it. So pixel for pixel, everything that we want to send to it looks perfect on this display. So instead of sending the video straight out of the switcher like we normally would, it's coming straight out of this. So what that button is doing on that Stream Deck is actually switching a preset in the video wall Novastar processor in order to go to the switcher feed instead of the computer feed. So like what we normally do with our programming here, we're running Light Key like we do in most of our spaces, and then we are also running ProPresenter, and that allows us to do macros for our lighting commands. So basically what we can do is on any one of these, they can drag a macro directly onto a slide, and when they're ready for instance, Worship 1 lighting, they can fire that. The lighting's gonna change in the space, or if it's on a slide, they can just click the first slide of that song and the lighting's gonna change to exactly the preset that they designate ahead of time for their service. And just like you've seen in a ton of our videos, we got the Pro Church Lights wall panel here, and we've set up some presets for them. So right now it's running on console, but if I switch to the wall control, now it's being controlled from the wall. We set up a few presets here. We set up a preaching preset that's going right now. This is a basic worship preset. This is actually one that we set up for a wedding they think they're gonna have here in the next couple months, where they don't even need to turn on their computer for a wedding. It's gonna be a small wedding, so they don't need microphones and things like that. So they can literally walk in, press preset number 3, and the lights are set up for that wedding. And then we just did a house light up at 100% for things like maintenance, cleaning, stuff like that. The other thing we set up here is a power sequencer by Lowell Manufacturing. And this one key, if I turned it to the right, would shut off all of the tech that we want to shut off with just the flick of a switch, but it shuts it off in the right order in order to protect the things that we want to protect, like speakers and amps. So just to give you guys a rundown of the lights that we installed in this room, it's a very simple lighting setup, but if I turn my house lights down, we'll start with the kick lights. We installed 8 Pro Church Lights Pro Kicks. And if I turn those up, those are full RGBW kick lights that we can throw a lot of different color on the stage with. The next thing that we installed is 12 Pro Church Lights Pro Wash Plus lights. These are a normal Fresnel style fixture, and they light up the entire stage when turned up. We also installed 2 Pro Church Lights moving lights. Now, initially they only wanted these because they wanted to be able to light up the floor in front of the stage for things like weddings, but we're repurposing those during services in order to add some color splashes to the side walls around their LED screen. And finally, we have the Pro Church Lights Pro Pendant lights for their house lights. There are 22 of these fixtures throughout the room, and these are also an RGBW fixture, so we can really change the color of the room and draw out the worship experience further into the space than just on stage. And for audio, we went with the LV1 Classic mixing console. The LV1 Classic is a great mixing console for the average small to mid-sized church. It has a lot of options. There's a lot of processing power, a lot of things that you can do with this mixer. The in-house sound this morning for their service sounded amazing, and I think their online service also came across really well. In fact, here's a clip of that service right now.
So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again, 'cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah.
The way we are accomplishing that sound that you're hearing is we are running all of their channels into groups. Those groups are then run into a matrix send for their front of house mix, and they're also sent directly to the left-right bus. Then for their broadcast mix over here, we run those same groups to their broadcast mix along with some room microphones and a broadcast extra channel that holds all of their effect sends that we run to that mix. And then the processing we're doing on that live stream is we're running Vitamin, F6, L2, and Playlist Rider, which really keeps their online mix right tight in that pocket so it sounds really good online. design. So what we do love about the LV1 Classic, or the LV1 console in general, is how flexible and expandable it is. So this console comes with a processor inside of it called a wave server. It has another computer that runs the software called the host computer that runs the LV1 software. And then it basically has some inputs and outputs in the back. And then it has this control surface on the front. But what you don't see is the stage boxes, which we'll get to in the back, that have all of the IO there as well. But if I were to run out of processing on this console, rather than just being kind of limited and maxed out on what I can accomplish, I can very quickly add more servers to this mixer in order to add more processing power. So if I'm running really intensive, heavy processing plugins on every single channel, I might need to actually add another server to this console. And then finally, because it's basically a computer running Windows software, it has the ability to hook up an extra touchscreen to it as well. So we can very quickly decide what we want to show over on this screen. I can dock that. Now I have all of my tabs on this first window, and any tab I want to drag over onto that window, I simply do that. I drag it over here, and now I have a secondary mixer. So really what I can do is be mixing front of house from this screen, and over here I could be helping someone with their monitors by jumping on sends to fader on the monitor sends.
For acoustic treatment in this space, we have the Prime Acoustic 2 foot wide by 4 foot tall Broadway panels. They are in the linen finish and they have the beveled edges to them. Looks great. Architecturally complements the interior design of the room. I really like the lighter kind of feel of this room. You don't have a bunch of dark colors. It's not a black box, and it's really appropriate for a place that's on an island here down in the Keys. It just feels like it has that kind of light, beachy vibe to it. These panels are massively helpful on the mid to higher frequency control in the room. It really helps produce a clearer mix. One additional upgrade this room could use, it couldn't fit in the budget this time around, is additional bass traps, especially to have some better low end frequency absorption, because that can cause some issues when the low frequencies start bouncing around, and sometimes they can cancel each other out if they're not absorbed completely. Overall though, it sounds really good with this treatment in the room when it is paired with this Fulcrum acoustic PA system. This audio system is point source. So we have 2 main arrays, we have 2 subwoofers, and then we have 3 delay speakers at the back of the room. And we also have 5 front fills along the front edge of the stage. That's what's nice about a point source system, is instead of going the line array route, which adds additional cost, it can also be an issue with sight lines as those speakers start stacking on top of one another and coming down in trim height. With point source, you can just put additional boxes closer to the listeners around the room, whether they're towards the back of the room, that's what the delay speakers are for, or towards the front row here where the main sound is kind of going over their head a bit. So we got full coverage in this room. There really is not a bad seat in the house. Flying those subs is also a really efficient way to disperse all of the sub energy around the room very evenly. You don't have those lobes or those power alleys from subs being underneath the stage. So the main array speakers are the GX15s by Fulcrum Acoustic. Those are coaxial drivers inside of those speakers. The subs are the CS121 subs. So we have 2 21-inch subs here, have no problem getting those really low frequencies. The delay speakers at the back of the room, they are the CCX coaxial speakers, also by Fulcrum. They're very compact. They pretty much disappear visually. Actually, this whole speaker system disappears in this room when you're not shining lights at them like we are right now for the purposes of this video. And here are the front fills. These are the Profile Ps by Fulcrum. We've got 5 of them. They have a 90-degree dispersion to them, and they're great for those who are in the first 2 rows. Again, those main speakers are optimized for the most people sitting in the general section seating area here in the room, and sometimes they'll miss out on the clarity of that audio. So that's why front fills can really do a service to the dozens, sometimes more people who are sitting in those front rows. Come on back to our equipment rack room, and this is also a green room. We've got a smaller space here, so we got everything packed away efficiently in these equipment racks, and we can use space in this church efficiently. Because remember, this wasn't a new build. They were working with an existing shell of a building already, so they wanted to make sure they had enough room for all the other classrooms, the bathrooms, all the other very important rooms that you gotta have in a church. So this is our AV system as well as the IT system. Another great company, Lorenzo and his team did an amazing job at IT. We were able to collaborate with them on the network side of things and the distributed audio side of things as well. Funny story, we got this temporary data cable coming in right now because the internet service provider for the church was not working. So they had no internet. Fortunately, we have a mobile Starlink device with us because our crews are often in places where there isn't internet. So we were able to use the Starlink for their opening services this morning, and it worked great. We had about 200 megabits down and more than 20 megabits up, so plenty of speed. Worth checking out Starlink if your church is in the middle of nowhere and needs reliable internet. So our internet service provider, Starlink, right now sends our internet into our gateway right here, the Dream Machine. This is all of the other Unify integrated networking system that Lorenzo and his team put in for internet access points around the building, alarm system. We've got video recorders right here for security purposes, a switch right here, and this is one of the 2 switches that we're using for AV. So we've been getting really great results with the USW Pros. The Pro level switches by Unify gives us lots of flexibility in managing our networking for the AV system. We've got our patch bay here that makes it very easy to patch data from one source to a destination or vice versa very quickly and efficiently. And then underneath that, we've got our Wall Panel Pro. This is what stores the DMX for the lights in the room when we're not using the light key and you wanna be able to recall scenes quickly. Under that, we've got a DMX distro to send DMX signal to each of our lighting trusses in locations. Underneath that, we have the Novastar processor, the VX1000, which takes a direct 4K signal from a Mac Mini from ProPresenter, and it sends it to the about 20 feet wide by 12 foot tall altitude LED screen. Moving on down, we've got power distribution by Lowell. Then we have the ATEM Constellation 2ME, gives us 2 mix effects for cutting 2 different feeds. It also has plenty of outputs on it. So this is what we use to get video from, cameras or computers to TVs that are around the building, as well as our encoder here, the web presenter, which is going to encode for the live stream. We've got all of our Macs rack mounted here. So we've got the X Mac Mini server here. It's the 1st gen Mac Mini, probably the last one we'll actually install that looks like that. And then we got the Rack Mac underneath here. They've got a Mac Mini in here. They got space for another one they could put in there if they want to add on another computer. We've got our AV Access KVMs. Every single video, everybody asks me, what types of KVMs are they? They are AV Access KVMs. We've also got our Nook here, and this allows the Churchfront team and our audio team to be able to remote into our amplifier to do any adjustments to the DSP if we have to. And then there's a bunch of battery backups here. We actually put their house lighting on battery backups so that in the case of an emergency, the house lights will remain on even if the power goes out. Moving on to our second equipment rack. This is Audio World. At the top here, we have another Unify switch, and we've gotten great results running our Waves network on the Unify switch, especially when you toggle on the AES67 setting for that VLAN. It just really works well. Waves does work a little bit differently in how it keeps track of its devices on the network. It leans more on MAC addresses than it does IP addresses, so you can run into issues if you don't configure that properly. But this allows us to keep everything, including Waves audio, on the Unify ecosystem. And then we got a patch bay down here. Moving on down the rack, we've got our sequencer. So this is what actually triggers all of the remote power control units around the room or here in the rack that can trigger amps and stage boxes and other audio devices on and off. And then we have our SLXDs by Shure right here. So they've got 6 channels of audio for their microphones. They've got an antenna distribution system by RF Venue. They have a PSM 300. They've got 2, 4, 6, 8 PSM 300s with the combiners here. So we have really good RF management. They're not going to run into any dropouts or fuzziness or RF issues in their ears or their microphones. And then we have the Dayton Audio amplifier. It's a 70-volt distributed audio system that Lorenzo and his system at Innovative Technology Solution installed alongside of all the networking here in the rack. And then under that, we have the new Ionic 24s by Waves. So these are some incredible preamps for a great sounding audio. It has 24 inputs and also 18 outputs, which is incredible, especially when you're running all those in-ear monitor mixes off of the LV1 itself. You have plenty of mixes you can set up there. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing audio integration, we put custom stage pockets on the stage by Whirlwind. They look fantastic. From there, you have multi-pair audio cables, so you have up to 4, 8, 12, 16 bundles of mic line cables that come to the rack. But then you gotta think, how are you gonna get those mic line cables into your stage box? And this is where our technicians do these custom ends to these mic line cables, where you've got heat shrink, you've got color-coded Tech Flex, you've got nice labels with a Churchfront logo on them, and it labels, you know, where this cable is with the same identifier as what you'll find on the stage pockets out there. And then you also have more heat shrink on top of that label, and then even more heat shrink inside the XLR connector here to make sure everything is nice and secure. We test it all. It works great, passes high quality audio, so you're getting really high quality audio from the source where you plug it in at the stage to your preamps here on the stage box. And then finally, moving down the rack to the bottom, we have the Unica 4L, the Unica 8M, and another Unica 4L. These are our power amplifiers. They also have built-in DSP in them, so this is how we actually tune the PA system. And these guys provide plenty of power and headroom to our speakers for the point source Fulcrum audio system. And then down here, we've got another battery backup. So that is our walkthrough of the equipment racks. Here's another nerdy thing that we implemented in this system that was required for the fire code and compliance, is the DMX emergency bypass. So we're actually able to program into that little bypass the DMX settings required to turn all the lights on in case if someone pulls a fire alarm or something gets tripped, so that automatically overrides all of the lights in the worship center for emergency purposes. We're also in the green room, as I mentioned. In the green room, you need some good shelves. So these are from IKEA. It's some Swedish model name. I can't remember what it is, but I made a reel on this from a previous tech tour. It got like hundreds of thousands of views, so our client saw that and he got the same one. So I'm basically an IKEA influencer now these days. We've got our charging bays for 4 handhelds, and the body pack here makes it just really easy to also organize all of our in-ear monitor packs that are here. They've got charging bays for their AA batteries, and just highly recommend these cost-effective storage solutions. And then of course they've got a TV back here so they can see content coming back from stage into the green room.
All right, let me show you the stage for this church that I think turned out fantastic. Obviously Jake already showed you the front fills, but I really like how clean the band was able to help us keep this stage so far. Truth will tell how long it stays this clean. We know how churches work. And on this stage, part of the way that we keep this stage clean is by installing the right types of floor pockets. We have 3 FP4 floor boxes from Whirlwind. We have 1 FP2 floor box up front that we have in a wireless acoustic guitar set up to. Back here at the drums, we can show you this one and the way that this keeps all of these cables clean and tidy and out of the way here. We've got 10 channels of drums all coming into the same floor box, as well as a couple outputs for the monitor here for the drummer. One more thing we have in this floor pocket is a data connection that's connected to this computer running playback by multitracks. And that way, off of playback, we actually have 10 channels of audio. 4 of those are stereo channels, and then 2 mono channels of audio coming off of playback for their track setup here in the church. For in-ears, most of the band is on those PSM 300s, but for the drums, we do have a wired station here just running a basic HP2 headphone amplifier by PreSonus. And what probably gets the most flack of anything we install in a church anywhere is a set of F-note drums. They're electronic drums, we know that. I will say that my drummer played some of these this last week, and he said these were the best feeling electric drums he's ever played. He obviously, of course, would prefer acoustic, but he's willing to make that sacrifice on a normal weekly basis in order to make it sound better in the room. And we do think that is what happens when you have electronic drums over an acoustic drum set in a space like this. If you were to add acoustic drums in a space like this, we would at the very least need to put him in a fishbowl in order to keep the audio frequencies at a minimum. And of course, where the Nord is, the Lord is as the keyboardists say it. This is a piano 5 that Ethan here at the church, he's the worship guy, he owns this Nord piano, and he does a great job playing it. And finally, if you have stuck around this long, it's probably because you saw this at the beginning of the tech tour. This is an altitude LED wall. This is a 2.9 millimeter pixel pitch. It is 21 feet wide by 11.5 feet tall. And I can tell you the exact pixel dimensions because I've had to enter it in a computer about a dozen times already. It is 3,072 pixels wide by 1,344 pixels tall. This is, of course, the altitude cloud panels that we installed here. This actually can be flown, as you see in this situation, or you can actually put it on the wall as well. We went back and forth in this installation of whether they wanted it wall mounted or flown. They ended up going with it flown just in case they ever wanted to adjust it, whether they wanted to move it somewhere else. If you put it on the wall, it does make it significantly harder if you ever want to drop it down, raise it up, do anything like that if it's permanently mounted on a wall.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode of Worship Tech Tour. I hope you guys learned something today about AV systems for your church, or you're inspired by this system here, and maybe it's going to influence a design or a project that you've got going. Leave a like, let us know your questions down below in the comments. Check out all the free resources we have for you at Churchfront. And of course, if you're looking to implement innovative solutions in your ministry, you can definitely reach out to our team. We'd love to learn more about your upcoming project, whether it's a small tech upgrade or a major build or renovation. We've got you covered. So you can learn more at churchfront.com. We look forward to speaking with you soon, and thanks again for watching this video.